Chapter 11 is about advertising and promotion. Promotion is a major stimulant of demand in retailing. In this chapter, we're going to talk about the role of advertising, sales promotion, social media, and publicity in the operation of retail business. Retail selling, another important element of promotion, will be discussed in Chapter 12. Our discussion here is directed at describing how retailers should manage their firm's promotional resources. Retailers use promotion to generate sales by making their targeted customers aware of current offerings. Most retailers use a combination of location, price levels, displays, merchandise assortments, customer service, and promotion, including social, as means to generate store traffic and sales. While direct promotional expenditures are not always a prerequisite for generating sales, they are a means of achieving sales above those that could be obtained merely by offering a lower price range, having a better location, or providing outstanding service. Retailers make trade-offs between the different elements of the retailing mix. While direct promotional expenditures are not always a prerequisite for generating sales, they are a means of achieving sales above that which could be obtained merely by offering a lower price range, having a better location, or providing outstanding service. In e-tailing, traffic is also the driver of sales. And with e-tailing, it is very easy to track not only what customers have in their online cart, but also what pages of the website they are viewing, how long they view a page or an item on the page, and how frequently they return to the website. All of this information can be used to offer the online customer special deals or recommend merchandise to them. If any one of you has ever bought anything on the internet, you'll know that when you buy something, you'll tend to get an email for something that's related, or the same product if it's on sale or something like that. But traditional brick-and-mortar retailers continue to struggle with tracking and measuring the impact of any promotion beyond the simplest of online coupons and discount codes. Yet even with the difficulties associated with tracking the impact of online promotion, technology is still affecting the way in which traditional stores operate and compete. So let's talk about some different types of promotions. Promotion has 5 basic components: advertising, sales promotion, social media, publicity, and personal selling. Collectively, these components make up a retailer's promotional mix. Advertising is paid non-personal communication through various media by organizations or individuals who are in some way identified in the advertising message and who hope to inform or persuade members of a particular audience. It includes communication of products, service, institutions, and ideas. Retailers most commonly use the following advertising media: internet, newspapers, radio, television, billboards, and printed circulars. Sales promotions involve the use of media and non-media marketing efforts for a predetermined limited period of time to stimulate trial and customer purchasing. The most popular sales promotion tools in retailing are premiums, frequent buying programs, coupons, window and in-store displays and signage, contests and sweepstakes, product demonstrations, and sampling. Social media includes a host of electronic information technologies that enable and stimulate social interactions among humans. Most social media are facilitated by the internet and include forms of web blogs, social blogs, podcasts, social bookmarking, sharing of videos, pictures, and information such as product or retailer ratings. Publicity is non-paid for communication of information about the company or the product, generally in some media form. And personal selling involves personal interaction with the consumer with a purpose to create a sale or transaction. Personal selling is often used during the sale of shopping goods and designed to assist the customer in gathering product information while simultaneously convincing the customer to purchase the retailer's particular products or services. All 5 components of the retailer's promotional mix need to be managed from a total systems perspective. In other words, they need to be effectively blended together to achieve the retailer's promotional objectives and reinforce each other. The biggest challenge facing retailers is that social media cannot be as well managed as the other elements and thus requires some special skills and programs. The management of promotional efforts in retailing must also fit into the retailer's overall strategy. Promotion decisions relate to and must be integrated with other management decisions such as location, merchandise, credit, cash flow, building and fixtures, price, and customer service. To effectively manage the promotional mix, retail managers must first establish their promotional objectives. These promotional objectives should flow from the retailer's overall objectives. They should be a natural outgrowth of the retailer's operations management plans. As such, all promotional objectives should ultimately seek to improve the retailer's financial performance, since this is what strategic and administrative plans are intended to accomplish. In your book, if you look at Exhibit 11.1, it'll show you how promotional objectives should relate to financial performance objectives. As this exhibit shows, promotional objectives can be established to help improve both long-term and short-term financial performance. So if we talk about long-term objectives, institutional advertising is an attempt by the retailers to gain long-term benefits by selling the store itself rather than the merchandise in it. By doing this, the retailer is creating a positive image for itself in the consumer's mind. Retailers using institutional advertisements generally seek to establish two long-term promotion objectives: create a positive store image and public service. If you're creating a positive store image, the first long-term objective of a promotion is to establish and reinforce a positive store image relative to its competitors in the customer's mind. Here, the retailer seeks to gain a differential advantage by establishing a favorable impression that is distinct from other retailers. The second long-term objective is directed at getting the consumer to perceive the retailer as a good citizen within the community. Retailers may sponsor public service advertisements to honor local athletes like Wendy's High School Athlete of the Week in Texas and scholars, as well as provide cash and merchandise to local charities. Promotional advertising attempts to bolster short-term performance by using product availability and price as a selling point. The two most common objectives of this type of promotion are increasing patronage from existing customers and attracting new customers. The retailer seeks to encourage existing customers to make more of their purchases at the retailer store. Attracting new customers to a shop is one of the second most common short-term promotional objectives. However, approaches to achieve such an objective vary based on where these new customers are located. One approach is to try attracting new customers from within the retailer's primary trading area. The second approach to gaining new customers is to focus on expanding one's existing trading area by attracting customers from the secondary trading area. In this case, the retailer might consider using different media to expand the geographic coverage of its promotional efforts. The third type of new customer is the customer that has just moved into the retailer's trading area. The elements of a retailer's advertising campaign are just one part of the company's overall strategy. A retailer's advertising campaign is a 7-step process. Select advertising objectives, budget for the campaign, allocate the budgeted dollars, design the message, select the media to use, schedule the advertisements, and then evaluate the results. A retailer's advertising objectives should flow from the promotional objectives. However, they should be more specific because advertising itself is a specific element of the promotional mix. Objectives should only be chosen after the retailer considers several factors that are unique to itself: the age of the store's location, the merchandise lines being sold, the store's competition, the size of the store's trading area, and what support it has from its suppliers. The specific objectives that advertising can accomplish are many, and they're varied. And those chosen depend on the target market that the retailer is seeking to reach. Regardless of the objective chosen, advertising must be aimed at a specific market segment. It has to be measurable, and it has to state the time period necessary in order to realize the desired results. A well-designed retail advertising campaign requires money that could be spent on other areas. The retailer hopes that the dollars spent on advertising will generate sales that will in turn produce added profits, which can then be used to finance the retailer's other activities. In fact, advertising should always be viewed as an investment that earns a return just like any other investment. Deciding which lines or departments to spend advertising on is not always easy. Advertising theory would suggest that the retailer's limited advertising funds should be allocated to products or departments that maximize the retailer's overall profitability. In practice, the retailer must settle for an allocation that is approximately correct. The next step in developing an advertising campaign is to design a creative message and select the media that will enable the retailer to reach its objectives. Creative decisions are especially important for retailers because their advertising message generally seek an immediate reaction from the consumer while having a short lifespan. Retail advertisements must accomplish these three goals: attract and retain attention, achieve the objective of the advertising strategy, and avoid errors, especially legal ones. Some common approaches that retailers use to gain repeated viewing involve using one of the following styles to make the promotion more enjoyable or informative. If you think about advertising during the Super Bowl, they try to invoke some of these different methods. So it could be lifestyle, where you're showing how the retailer's products fit into the consumer's lifestyle. It can be fantasy, which you're creating a fantasy for the consumer to build around the retailer's products. It can be humorous, which builds a campaign around humor that relates to using the retailer's product. It can be a slice of life, which depicts the consumer in everyday settings using the retailer's products. Or it can be a mood or image. It can pull on your heartstrings, so it can build a mood around the retailer's products. Before using the advertisement, the retailer should test for any mistakes. The mistakes could be accidental or perhaps inserted by an unhappy employee. The retailer has many media alternatives from which to select. In the past, retailers generally categorize media as print, which would be newspaper, magazines, and direct mail, and broadcast, which was lumped into radio and television. Now, however, retailers are beginning to classify media using a managerial perspective that recognizes that newspaper and local TV stations that use broadcast programming from the networks are mass media alternatives aimed at a local market, while cable television, radio, magazines, direct mail, and the internet can be more easily targeted towards specific markets. Historically, the most frequently used advertising medium in retailing was the newspaper, but newspaper advertising has been declining over the last decade. Most newspapers are local, and this is advantageous since most retailers appeal to the local trading area. Newspaper advertisements require only a short interval between the time copy is written and when the advertisement appears. Because some retailers do a poor job of planning and tend to use advertising as a response to crises, the short lead time for placing newspaper advertisement is a significant advantage. There's some disadvantages, other than the fact that most people aren't using newspaper anymore. The fact that a consumer was exposed to an issue of a newspaper does not mean that the consumer read or even saw the retailer's advertisement. The life of a single issue of a newspaper is short, it's read, and usually just thrown away. The typical person spends relatively little time with each issue, and the time spent is spread over many items in the newspaper. And newspapers have poor reproduction quality, which leads to advertisements with little visual appeal. Over the past decade, some retailers have shifted from newspaper to television advertising as a means of reaching the elusive full-price shopper. For a brand to be viewed as credible and top of the line, the television is a more dynamic medium. For advertising through television, there's some advantages. Research suggests that over time, the subtle and gradual effect from the TV images on consumer memory is greater than the messages received from media such as radio, because you don't see those advertisements. Television advertising is likely to possess coverage well beyond the small to intermediately sized retailers' trading area, which increases the likely inefficiency of such a media choice. The major disadvantages of television are it's expensive. You might be reaching more people, but it's much more expensive to put your advertisement on the television. The competition is high for viewers' attention, and the overall time spent watching television has decreased in recent years as many younger consumers have switched to watching TV programming over the internet or via a Roku device, and they're cutting out all of those advertisements. Many retailers prefer to use radio because it can target messages to a select group. Most communities have 5 to 10 or more radio stations, each of which tends to appeal to a different demographic group. Through the use of proper variations in volume and types of sounds, retailers can use radio to develop distinctive and appealing messages and to introduce a store and its images to current and potential customers. Radio advertising is advantageous because you can develop that distinct message. You can introduce people who have never heard of your store before to your store and get them interested. Radio offers a lot of different flexibilities, and many radio audiences develop strong affection and trust for their favorite radio announcers. So when these announcers endorse a retailer, the audience often listens. Some drawbacks to radio advertising are radio commercials, especially the uncreative ones, are not saved or referred to again like print media advertisements. Radio is frequently listened to during work hours and driving time, and therefore tends to become part of background environment. So you have it on, you're listening to it, but are you really paying attention? And since radio is non-visual, it's impossible to effectively demonstrate or show merchandise that's being advertised. Relatively few local retailers advertise in magazines unless the magazine has only a local circulation. Many national-based retailers allocate some of their advertising budgets to magazine, but the majority of the advertisements tend to be institutional in nature. Some advertisements they have a better reproduction value and a longer lifespan per issue, and consumers spend more time with each issue of magazine than a newspaper. Many magazines have the unique characteristic of being shared among family and friends and extending the reach of the advertisement. And featured articles in a magazine can put people in the mood for a particular product class. A major disadvantage of using magazines is that the long lead time required prevents advertising with price appeals or any urgency in its message. The internet, with its various social networks like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, is playing an important role as a way for consumers to establish their identities. While TV ratings and newspaper circulations have declined at an accelerating rate in the last few years, internet traffic is continuing to grow rapidly on a national and global basis. So advantages of advertising on the internet are retailers can send messages of sales and special events to specific people who have opted to receive them. This allows the retailers to stay current and allows the followers to give instant feedback as well. The internet has an ability to provide information on demand for customers, and in this day and age, customers want their information as soon as they possibly can. The communication elements of advertising, sales, promotion, and public relations are all strategic options a firm can use when communicating with its various publics. So with all the different types of media that you can use, when is the best time to schedule it? What day of the week, what time of the day, what week of the month, what month of the year should advertisements appear? There's no uniform answer to these questions, and it's possible for retailers in the same product lines to advertise at different times to different people. So you should always look at a couple things. Advertisements should appear on or right before the days when customers are most likely to make the purchase. Advertising should be concentrated around the times when people receive their payroll checks. They have money to spend. If the retailer has limited advertising funds, then it should concentrate its advertising during periods of highest demand. The higher degree of habitual purchasing of a product class, the more the advertising should precede the purchase time. So the next question is, will the advertising produce results? It depends on how well the advertisements were designed and how well the advertisements were made. A consistent record of good retail advertising decision making can be made only if the retailer effectively plans its advertising program. So there are definitely ways for marketers and advertisers to see how their advertising dollars are being spent and how they're getting their return on investment. So chapter 12 is about customer service and retail selling. In this chapter, we're going to talk about customer service, including retail selling, and how it generates additional demand for retailers' merchandise. We'll also look at an optimal customer service level. Without any exception, it is a fact of life that all retailers must give consideration to a service level and services that they offer their customers. Delivering high quality service means delivering service that meets or exceeds customers' expectations. There's no absolute value given to quality service. On the contrary, only service that meets or exceeds the expectations of customers is considered high quality. The bottom line in retailing is always try to meet or exceed customer expectations. Relationship retailing includes all the activities designed to attract, retain, and enhance customer relationships. Retailing is no longer driven by the expansion of large, homogeneous, big box chains offering only low prices. Profitable retailers of the future will be those who concentrate on building long-term relationships with customers by promising and consistently delivering high-quality products backed by high-quality service. If people need shopping aids to purchase their products, and they want honest pricing to build and maintain a relationship of absolute trustworthiness. As a result of the preceding trends, today's retailers are not trying to maximize the profits on each transaction, but are instead seeking to build a mutually beneficial relationship with the customer. If you think about it, you might not get a high dollar purchase from one customer one time, but if they keep coming back over time, you're going to build up those profits. Most often, supporting relationship retailing is an informative technology infrastructure that the industry refers to as customer relationship management, or CRM. CRM is comprised of an integrated information system in which the fundamental unit of data collection is the customer. It's supplemented by other relevant information about the customer, including particular behavior, demographics, customer complaints, and other options that can go in there. In using CRM systems, there is an important lesson for retailers to remember. Keep your firm's mission in mind when evaluating and adopting your CRM program. If you look in your book at Exhibit 12.3, it highlights the 3 basic tasks or activities that every retailer must perform in order to simply have a chance to succeed. They need to get customers from the trading area into the store. They need to convert these consumers into loyal customers and then operate in the most efficient manner possible. Better customer service has a basic positive effect on these three tasks of retailing. When retailers establish a reputation around great customer service, that retailer will actually expand its trade area, which will lead to higher customer traffic. Also, great customer service will result in better addressing customers' need, which increases a retailer's closure rate, as well as the average transaction size. Finally, as a retailer focuses on the customer and on exceeding the customer's needs, retailing errors decrease, like wrong merchandise, poor quality merchandise. And this in turn decreases the cost associated with correcting an error, which naturally increases the retailer's overall efficiency. Retailers have to differentiate themselves by meeting the needs of their customers better than the competition. So successful retailers have once again come to realize that customer service is the key source of competitive strength and advantage. However, it's important that retailers also remember that when they encourage high customer expectations, the slightest disappointment in service can be catastrophic. Customer service consists of all of the activities performed by the retailer that influence the ease at which a potential customer can shop or learn about the store's offerings. And that's known as the pre-transaction component of customer service. Customer service also entails the ease at which a transaction can be completed once the customer attempts to make a purchase, and that's known as the transaction component of customer service. The customer satisfaction with the transaction is known as the post-transaction component of customer service. Retailers should design their customer service program around pre-transaction, transaction, and post-transaction elements of the sale in order to obtain a differential competitive advantage. A retail shopping experience involves the customer's actions before and after the transaction. Therefore, serving the customer before, during, and after the transaction can help to create new customers and strengthen the loyalty of the current customers. A customer who visits a store and finds service below expectations or the product out of stock is likely to become a transient customer. This transient or temporary customer will seek to find a retailer with the level of customer service that he or she feels that is appropriate. The performance mandate, therefore, is for retailers to develop a superior customer service program that will have significant advantage in not allowing customers to exit and become transients other retailers can capture, and or to convert transients that it can attract to its store or website into loyal customers. Customer service can't all happen by itself, but it's got to be integrated into all of the other aspects of retailing. That is why profitable retailers of the future will know that the demand for their merchandise is not only price elastic, it's also service elastic. The three general categories of customer service are, again, pre-transaction services, transaction services, and post-transaction services. The most common pre-transaction services, which are provided to the customer prior to even entering the store, are convenient hours, ease of parking, and information aids. Each service makes it easier for the potential customer to learn about the retailer's offerings. The term transaction services means offering the conveniences customers need and then helping them out of the store as fast as possible with their purchases. The most important transaction services are credit, layaway, gift wrapping and packaging, check cashing, gift cards, personal shopping, merchandise availability, and personal selling, as well as the sales transactions itself. Post-transaction services are services provided to the customer after they have purchased merchandise or services. The most common post-transaction services are complaint handling, merchandise returns, merchandise repairs, servicing, delivery, and post-sale follow-ups. Post-transaction services are especially important for online retailers since there usually isn't a face-to-face relationship involved, and it's done via the computer, usually in the form of a survey or something like that. Retail salespeople and the service they provide are a major factor in consumer purchase decisions. Salesperson is a major determinant of a retailer's image. When the salesperson is available, friendly, appropriately dressed, and helpful, customers are often influenced to enter into a transaction with that retailer. Management of the retail sales force plays a crucial role in the success or failure of retail operations. A quick story. I, many years ago, was looking to purchase a car. I decided to go on my own without my husband to just look at some cars. So I went to a Toyota dealership. I walked in, talked to the salesman, told him exactly what I was looking for, four-wheel drive, enough room for the kids, all those kinds of things. He gave me some information about different vehicles that would fit. I told him exactly how much I could afford, and he let me test drive some of the cars, and then I thanked him and went on my way. He didn't pressure me into anything. He didn't treat me like I didn't know what I was talking about. Then I went to another dealership up the road. I'm not going to say which one. I walked in, started looking at some cars on the surface. About 20 minutes passed, and a older salesman came over and looked at me and said, "You can't afford that car." Didn't know me, didn't know my name, didn't know anything about me, but just assumed that I wouldn't be able to afford the car. Didn't know if I was married, didn't know literally anything about me, never even said hi, just walked over and said, "You can't afford that car." And it wasn't like the most expensive car on the lot. So I looked at him, I said, "Okay," and I turned around and walked out. I went back to the Toyota dealership because the salesperson treated me with respect and listened to what I wanted instead of just assuming what was best for me or trying to sell me what would make him the most commission or anything like that. The length of time a salesperson spends in each of the following steps depends upon the product type, the customer, and the selling situation. Salespeople should take advantage of the behavioral cues that are shown in Exhibit 12.9 in the textbook. So first is prospecting, and prospecting is the search process of finding potential customers who have the ability and the willingness to purchase your product. Prospecting is particularly important when the store is full of customers. Then there's the approach. The first 15 to 30 seconds of a salesperson-customer interaction sets the mood for the rest of the sale. The salesperson must use this time to begin enhancing the shopping experience of everyone who walks through the front door. The key to a successful approach is discerning the customer's needs as soon as possible by asking the right questions and by listening. What the salesperson hears about the customer's problems or needs is more important than anything the salesperson can possibly contribute at this point. Then there's the sales presentation. The salesperson should present the merchandise and sales message in this stage and make the customer want to buy your product or service. The salesperson should determine the right price ranges of the products, select what he or she believes is the right product or service to satisfy the customer's needs, inform the customer about the merchandise in an appealing way, and help the customer decide on the product or service that best fulfills their needs. Next is closing the sale, and it's a natural conclusion in the selling process. It's often the most difficult step for salespeople. You have to determine what's going on in the customer's minds. Unless they're saying, "Okay, I'm ready to buy," you may not know. So you have to look for closing cues. You have to look for specific questions that alert you to the fact that the customer is going to buy your product. There's also an issue in closing with there are some objections that customers may bring up. So they may say that the price is too high, or they don't have time to think about the product that you want to sell them, or they're in a hurry or something like that. So this is something that's really important for salespeople to be able to overcome. And usually you can just dig a little bit deeper by asking some questions, and that will help you understand why the objections are there and how you could possibly overcome them. There is always a point when it's just not going to work, but you don't want to burn that bridge with that customer. You've already built this relationship, or you're starting to build this relationship. So if it's a no now, it doesn't mean that it's going to always be a no. So don't ruin that relationship by being angry. So that was a brief overview of chapters 11 and 12. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email. I will get back to you with any answers that I have. Thank you.